I'll, let the pundits and the people looking closely at the data and the results of different elections make those analyses. I'm truly just focused on myself, as I advise a lot of folks to do, just blocking out the noise and.
Trump's attorney Sidney Powell has revealed that Eric Coomer, Dominion's head of product and strategy, has disappeared. In an interview with Newsmax, she also said that its headquarters in Toronto and Denver, Colorado, are empty. The Dominion voting software has come under heavy scrutiny recently for suspected election fraud, manipulating votes from one candidate to the other. Representatives from Dominion also did not attend a court hearing in Pennsylvania on November 19, where the House of Representatives were planning to question Dominion on possible election manipulation. This has raised suspicions online that they may have something to hide. On the Toronto headquarters closure, Powell said, the Dominion office suddenly closed and moved away from Toronto. The headquarters originally shared the office with Soros Corporation. Its U.S. headquarters in Denver was also suddenly closed and moved away. Their employees deleted their names from LinkedIn. It also deleted any relationship with the company. More than 100 employees of the company did this.
But today it did confirm it made a donation to the Clinton Foundation in 2014. It also confirmed it hired Nancy Pelosi's former chief of staff as a lobbyist, but it says it has another lobbyist who worked for Republicans like Dick Cheney.
An alleged whistleblower has come forward. The person claims to have witnessed how election software secretly manipulates votes without leaving a trace. Trump campaign lawyer and former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell released a sworn affidavit from the individual. The whistleblower alleges witnessing a plot to create a sophisticated electronic voting system to manipulate the tabulation of votes, giving the ability to select the winner. This was accomplished between Smartmatic software executives, the former Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, and Venezuela's election officials. From that point on, Chavez never lost any election. In fact, he was able to ensure wins for himself, his party, congresspersons, and mayors from townships.
Have fraud countermeasures. We have people who have got too many fingers on those ballots. We have equipment that is made by a foreign country that is 100% corruptible. And we've got a duplicitous organization, that would be our elected officials, who are permitting the sequestration of that instead of showing transparency and say, you know what? You don't have to give us a subpoena. You don't have to impound the machines. Tell you what, pick one. Let's do a forensic audit. All I'm hearing is crickets, and that is unacceptable.
The electronic voting machine companies, and we started looking at some of the vulnerabilities that have been mentioned on the floor of the U.S. Congress and Senate that have been widely published in publicly available documentaries.
DEF CON is an annual hacker conference, and in my world, conferences tend to be these sort of big sponsored events with elaborate advertisements everywhere. But DEF CON is very unique in that everybody who attends, including press, pays $300 cash to attend. There are no sponsors. It turns out that the people in attendance are not the loners, working on behalf of the Russian government, at least none that we saw. People tend to, the tradition there is people coming in who are either employed by big companies helping them them to imagine the worst case scenarios. We were there specifically to attend something called the Voting Village, which is something that's gone on for 3 years. And in this, its third year, they had assembled some of the most common voting machines in the country, both systems that are on the front end that you and I use to actually register our vote, and the back end, tabulators and so forth, that you would feed a paper ballot into or that oversee a system. What was so interesting was I assumed coming into it that the big manufacturers, companies like ES&S and Dominion, had provided these machines to the hackers to, field test them. But no, it turns out there's an extremely hostile relationship there, and that ES&S and Dominion and other companies have basically said we don't want to participate, and really have been quite aggressive in saying we don't want to be part of this. So the organizers were reduced to finding these machines on eBay, which right there is pretty terrifying, because it turns out that anybody can buy some of the most common machines in use on eBay. What was really alarming was when you see these hackers, and these are people who've never seen these machines before, have had no practice on them for the most part, come in and engage them, they immediately get into the guts of them. Beyond that, we were seeing Dominion's image cast system. It's a line of tabulators that paper ballots are fed into. That had its guts all over the room in time for the for the next primaries and for the 2020 election. And yet here these kids were who had opened it up. They said, look, you can pop the front off of it, and here's a port you can get into right here. That's easy. All kinds of stuff that you could certainly do within 6 minutes behind a curtain, much less if you had extra time, because any of these were connected to the web, as we discovered a couple of days before. So many of them are. So at the end of the event, Voting Village issues a report, and so we'll be expecting one from them, and they're very transparent about it.
Waldron, a cybersecurity expert and retired Army colonel who specialized in information warfare, testified at the Arizona public hearing before GOP legislators. Waldron said he shared his team's extensive research into U.S. voting systems vulnerabilities with local Texas DHS personnel months before the election. Some of the vulnerabilities include the machines being connected to the internet and malware.
When I started working on this project in August, I called them up and said, you guys have got to come out and look at it. They did. They spent an initial 3 hours going through this data. At the end of that, one of them said, I think I need to go outside and throw up.
He also claimed he was told by local DHS personnel that members of CISA's election division would not participate in the internal meetings or briefings about the material his team provided. One of the GOP legislators noted that Chris Krebbs, the former director of CISA, stated that the 2020 election was the most secure in history.
He stated, we're not connected to the internet. He stated no votes leave this country. This is all things he's stated publicly.
So on the CISA website, correct?
Right. So are you willing to say under oath that you have seen the connection to the internet? You have seen it go offshore to Germany, Frankfurt. Are these things that you have personally seen and can say that is not true?
Our white hat hackers, yes, they have that traffic in the packets.
So why would he make that kind of comment?
And in a strange twist in the tale, you might remember last week we told you that the Department of Homeland Security's cybersecurity agency called the 2020 election the most secure in American history. But it turns out that Dominion is a member of one of the councils that issued the statement. The other voting machine company, Smartmatic, is also a member.
I'm telling you, there's folks from that attend these DEF CON conferences every single year that can hack into a system like that in a matter of seconds. So no, there's no such thing as an air gap. And you think something like elections determine who the leader of the free world is going to be for the next 4 years might tempt somebody to go off and play games with that? And we've got evidence that that indeed happened. So even the contract with the state of Michigan defines that these are designed, this equipment's designed to connect to the Ethernet and also in some cases specifically to via cell-based modems to the internet.
one quick thing. Earlier, a gentleman talked about the password, the password to the QVF in the system. There was the piece of paper with the login and the password were taped to each table, and it was admin and this password taped to each table. So God and everyone could get that password. I just want to say, sorry, God.
And I was also at your hearing the other day when the clerks were testifying. And one thing that stood out to me as a glaringly obvious thing, as an engineer, I'm a technical person. I love math. I have a fair bit of programming under my belt. Those people were not IT specialists. They know nothing. I assume they appeared to know nothing about programming, and yet they said multiple times throughout that hearing that it was the most secure election in history. And I would like to say that it seems like they have no credentials to be able to say that.
I am also an engineer, so let's get to some of that. Every computer on Tuesday morning had an error code in the right-hand corner that says update was overdue. It was flashing on every single computer I looked at. I looked at least 20 of them. Also, about a third of the computers had the wrong time. At 10 a.m. in the morning, about a third of the computers said 2:59 p.m. I don't know how they keep track of when things are occurring when the time on the computer is not even correct. She logged in as an admin. So she had full authority to do anything she wanted into that system. Did everybody in that facility use the admin? All the routers with high amounts of transferring and work when there was nobody even monitoring the copy machines that were collecting the ballots.
Furthermore, I asked all the election officials that were there, Daniel Baxter, I asked former state representative David Nathan, I said, are these connected to the internet? And they all denied internet connectivity. Every one of those tabulator machines was connected via Ethernet cable. That Ethernet cable connected to a router. That router connected to all the other computers in that network, including up to what's called the local data center, which was managing all the returns for 503 precincts here in the city of Detroit. What was further concerning was that I saw a Ethernet cable coming from the wall connected into one of these routers that was connected to the local data center, which was connected to all the tabulators and adjudicators, and that seemed to indicate an outside internet connection. When I flip on my phone and I look for connected networks, I also understand that there's a wireless network called AV_connect. That was accessible. I wonder what AV stands for. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that's probably something to do with absentee vote. Chris Thomas has already, through other statements, validated that that local data center was connected to the internet. If one computer on a network is connected to the internet, all the computers are connected to the internet. Admin passwords for the Dominion voting system, and the testimony attests to that, available up on the dark web, people could get access to it. That's important because with this key under the mat left by a gentleman out at the NIST, it provided all the specs or the specific files to look for in these election systems and what their sizes were so that you could mask any abnormal traffic. That including one error message that says, warning, this computer is being hacked.